You know, we are literally swimming in fluids all the time, from the air we breathe to the oceans that cover our planet. And they're all governed by these incredible physical laws. Laws that somehow allow a massive steel ship to float and an even heavier airplane to just soar through the sky. So how on earth does that work? Well, that's what we're here to figure out. We're going to explore the fundamental principles of fluid physics and really get a feel for this invisible, powerful world all around us. It sounds like a riddle, right? You've got this giant cargo ship, sitting calmly on the water. It's a perfect example of buoyancy in a fluid that's just still. And then you have the other, a plane, slicing through the air, a total marvel of lift in a fluid that's in motion. But the answer to the riddle is that they are both masters of the exact same fundamental physics. And I promise you, by the time we're done here, you'll know exactly what connects them. Okay. So before we can even begin to tackle floating and flying, we have to start with the absolute basics. I mean, what is a fluid, really? And what are the basic rules and properties that make it behave the way it does? So here it is, the core definition. A fluid is basically anything that can flow. Now, what makes it flow? It's because it can't handle something called a shearing stress. Just imagine you're trying to slide the top cover of a book sideways. The book resists, it holds its shape. But if you try to do that to the surface of water, the top layer just slides away. It flows. That inability to resist a sideways force is the defining feature of a fluid. It's why they take the shape of whatever container you put them in. And if you zoom way in, down to the molecular level, it all makes perfect sense. In a solid, like you see on the left, the atoms are all locked into this neat, rigid structure. That's why they can resist those sideways or tangential forces. But fluids? Their molecules are a mess. There's no orderly arrangement, so they're free to just move around and tumble past each other. That's why they flow the second you push on them. Now, to really describe fluids like a physicist, we need a couple of key tools. First up is density. We use the Greek letter rho for that, and it's super simple. It's just how much stuff, or mass, is packed into a certain amount of space. The second is pressure. Pressure is the amount of force a fluid pushes on a surface spread out over that surface's area. We measure it in pascals. These two concepts, density and pressure, they are the absolute building blocks for everything else we're going to talk about. And here's a really crucial point about pressure that can trip people up. Force has a direction. It's a vector. But pressure, it's a scalar. It has an amount, but no direction. Think about it. If you're deep underwater, the water isn't just pushing down on you. It's pushing on you from above, from below, from all sides, and all with the same amount of pressure. It's an all-encompassing squeeze. All right, we've got the rules down, so let's apply them to fluids that are just sitting still, what physicists call hydrostatics. It turns out the invisible forces at play in still fluids are responsible for some pretty incredible things, from the pressure you feel at the bottom of a pool to, you guessed it, why those giant steel ships don't sink. Any diver knows this feeling instinctively. As you go down, you feel that pressure building in your ears, and it's a direct relationship. For every 10 meters or so you descend in water, the pressure increases by 1 whole atmosphere. And why is that? It's simply because you've got the weight of that entire column of water stretching all the way from where you are up to the surface, pushing down on top of you. And of course, there's an equation for this. The total pressure P at some depth h is equal to P naught, that's the pressure at the surface, like the air pressure, plus rho GH. That second part is the extra pressure from the fluid itself. It's the fluid's density, rho, times g, the acceleration due to gravity, times your depth h. So you can see the deeper you go, the bigger h gets, and the greater the total pressure becomes. Okay, hold on. We've just established that the weight of a fluid column pushes down, which makes total sense. But that brings up a really great question. If that's the whole story, how does a boat float? How is it possible for a fluid to push something up? The answer is hiding in the fact that the downward pressure isn't the same everywhere. And the answer has a name, Archimedes' principle. It's so brilliant. When you put an object in water, the pressure on the bottom of the object is a little bit greater than the pressure on the top, right? Because the bottom is deeper. That pressure difference creates a net upward force. We call that the buoyant force. And here's the genius part. Archimedes figured out that this upward force is exactly equal to the weight of the water that the object pushed out of the way. So whether something sinks or floats is just a battle between two forces. You've got gravity pulling the object's weight down, and you've got the buoyant force pushing it up. If the object's weight is more than the buoyant force, it sinks. Simple. If its weight is less than the buoyant force, it's going to rise. And if those two forces are perfectly balanced, the object floats, just chillin' in equilibrium. And just like that, we've solved the mystery of the steel ship. A solid chunk of steel is way denser than water, so of course it sinks. But if you shape that same steel into a huge, hollow hull, you change the game. Its average density, that's the steel plus all the air inside, is now less than water. That hollow shape lets it push aside a massive volume of water, which creates an enormous buoyant force, one that's strong enough to hold up all 500,000 tons of the ship. It's all about the shape. So, we've pretty much mastered fluids at rest, but things get even wilder and frankly more interesting when fluids start to move. Welcome to the world of fluid dynamics. This is where we're going to find the secret to flight. I'm sure you've done this. You're watering the garden, you put your thumb over part of the opening of the hose, and what happens? The water shoots out way faster. That simple little trick is actually you demonstrating a fundamental law of fluid dynamics. This is described by something called the equation of continuity. It basically says that for a fluid that doesn't compress, like water, the amount of it flowing past any point has to stay the same. So the product of the area the water is flowing through, A, and its speed, V, has to be constant, which means if you make the area A smaller, like with your thumb, the speed V has to get bigger to keep things equal. Think of it like a river. In the wide open parts, the water can flow nice and slow. But when that same river gets forced into a narrow canyon, all that water has to squeeze through. The only way to do that is to speed up. Big area, slow speed. Squeeze it into a small area, and it's got to pick up the pace. And this is where it gets really weird and amazing. A guy named Daniel Bernoulli figured out this next part, and it's totally counterintuitive. For the fluid to speed up as it enters that narrow section, there must be a force pushing it from behind. That means the pressure behind it has to be higher than the pressure inside the narrow section. And what does that mean? It means where the speed of a fluid is high, its pressure is low. Let that sink in. Fast-moving fluid means low pressure. That idea is the key to everything. Okay, we have all the pieces of the puzzle. We've got Archimedes' principle for still fluids, and we've got the continuity equation and Bernoulli's principle for moving fluids. It's time to put it all together and finally connect that ship on the ocean to the plane in the sky. And here you can see it laid out side by side. The ship floating, that's a problem of a fluid at rest. It's governed by Archimedes' principle, a simple balance of buoyancy versus weight. But the plane flying, that's a problem of a fluid in motion. It's governed by Bernoulli's principle, a relationship between speed and pressure. So here's how it works. An airplane wing has a special shape called an airfoil. It's curved on top and flatter on the bottom. This shape forces the air flowing over the top to travel a longer path, so it has to move faster than the air flowing underneath. And what did Bernoulli teach us? Faster air means lower pressure, so you end up with low pressure on top of the wing and higher pressure below it. That pressure difference creates a net upward force. We call it lift. So, let's go back to our riddle. What do that massive ship and that heavy airplane have in common? They are both incredible feats of engineering that have mastered the physics of fluids. The ship conquers gravity by using its shape to create a massive buoyant force. The airplane defies gravity by using its speed to create a huge pressure difference. They're just two sides of the same beautiful coin, the fundamental rules of pressure, density, and flow. And once you start looking, you'll see this physics absolutely everywhere. It's in a hydraulic jack that uses pressure to lift a car. It's inside our own bodies, where Bernoulli's principle governs blood flow through our arteries. The same elegant rules we've talked about today are behind so many incredible technologies and natural wonders. So the real question is, after this, what will you see differently now?